And they told him I was a singer, but I wasn't really a singer.
Right.
So he thought I was a real singer, and he comes, he's like, whoa, what kind of music do you do? I'm like, He's hearing, and now he thought I was gonna be at that time was like No Doubt, Sublime,
Yep.
311 were all big.
Yep.
Sugar Ray. All right, Sugar Ray came a little bit later.
But yeah, it's all that genre.
Yeah, and so he thought I was gonna be like them, like kind of like this rock reggae, Kylie reggae vibe thing. And then my shit was so straight, like roots, dance hall, like it was like a mixture of Bob Marley, Shabba Ranks, and Maxi Priest. Al played my demo to Family Man, and they said, get that kid.
Yeah.
And I had never performed. I never had a sound check. Never had rehearsals.
Yeah.
Nothing. And my first show was in Dubuque, Iowa, in front of like 6,000 people. There was no sound check, no rehearsals. It was all festivals.
Yeah.
So the next was Sierra Nevada Music Festival. Another 16, 15,000 people.
Yeah.
All the biggest reggae bands that I grew up like idolizing, looking up to, Gregory Isaacs, Dennis Brown, Toots and the Maytals, the Abyssinians, Roots Radic, everybody were opening up for me.
Hi, welcome to 90who10. I'm Jessica Entner.
And I'm Dan Eisenstein.
And today we have a guest that is my friend and yours.
Yeah.
And he is the second eldest of 4 children from Moroccan Jewish heritage. His dad's from Israel. His mom is from America. He has 4 kids himself. And you would know him as the singer and songwriter and part of the Wailers, Elan Atias.
How
was that? That was a weird
That was
one.
great.
That was
Right.
I was like shocked, like fuck
It's become
better
a thing.
than I could do.
It just comes.
She's
It
great.
flows.
She's really good at it.
Flows.
Right?
She's awesome.
Nice.
We're so excited to have you. We both stalked you separately. Like I was texting you, he was texting you. So thank you for making it down
We go
today.
back a long time. I've known you
since
we were probably 11, 12 years old, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
6th, 7th grade, 6th grade.
We're going back 40 years.
Yeah, and you're smack in between us because you graduated 92, 93, 94.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Right.
From
But I've known you when
Yeah.
you went to Hawthorne. I knew you from June Chong Taekwondo.
Yes.
Yeah.
June Chong
Talked about this one before.
Yeah, right.
We all went there, yeah.
Yeah, Mike
Were you there
Azria.
the day
Mike
that-
Azria,
Mike
that's who we
Azria.
talked
Mike
about this
Azria was
a
with.
badass.
Of course. And
Yeah.
Kiki, his mom, who
Right.
was like,
Yes.
dude, and there was all like Dolph Lundgren would come in.
Yeah.
So one day, were you there the day we were all in class and some dude came off the street? Now, you remember it was all glass. This is on Wilshire Boulevard.
Well, yeah, it was
and
Wilshire
La Jolla.
La Jolla, yeah.
So it was all glass around. One crazy dude walks in. He was all like, you could tell it was like kind of like what happens every day now around in that area.
Yeah.
But he came in, he was like looking around and he looked at Master Chung.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, he started doing this, like making fun.
Right. Yeah.
He's like, I'll kick your ass. He started saying, I'll kick your ass, I'll kick your ass, I'll kick your ass. I'm a black belt, I'm this. So they went and they started, and we all were sitting around.
Yeah.
He did it, and he did like a flying, spinning heel kick. Sent the dude through one of the, that's why I said the glass. He threw almost all the way out to the street of Wilshire, because that was a huge sidewalk. It was the craziest thing. I was like in 6th grade.
No, I wasn't there for that, but I can believe it. Yeah. And we had Mike on the show.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
So he was talking about this. I'm like, why does that sound familiar to me? But
I mean, Mike was a badass.
Yes, Mike went to black belt.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
He was there like studying 3-4 times
a
week.
He was.
His mom was a red belt or black belt too.
Yeah.
No, he was like Karate Kid. Like legit.
I ran into both my son,
Sorry.
Master Chung. They moved and it's down the street, and I was taking, I think Brandon's son goes there. And
Sure. Brandon Williams,
Brandon's son. And then also my son went there for a second.
Okay.
And I saw Master Chung from all the years, and him and his wife run the whole thing now.
Yep.
And he didn't remember me, obviously.
Yeah, he's had so many kids go through there.
But dude,
in the last,
it was amazing seeing
40
him.
years ago.
40 plus years ago, and he's been there. He was.
You're like, remember that time that you beat the shit out of that guy and threw him out?
He wasn't a homeless guy. He was like just some weirdo, but and the guy was like threatening him and doing it all in front of the parents and the
totally.
And it was like, oh, okay, and he's trying to start a fight.
Well, he was a badass. I mean, and he always,
real deal.
He had Bill Superfoot Wallace was always in there. And Ron Reagan Jr. trained there.
Chuck Norris used to come.
Yeah.
All the guys who were
everybody
actors
went
in like, like Dolph Lundgren, Chuck Norris, all those cats used to come in and train there and work. And Master Chung was also big in the in the film business. Him
Yeah, they made that Ninja Turf. And then Phil Reed was in Best of the Best with Eric
Best of the
Roberts.
Best. Yes, that was great.
Yeah.
So was Master Chung.
Yeah,
Master
yeah.
Chung was in Best of the Best.
So you were raised totally in LA then?
My dad's from Morocco, born in Morocco, moved to Israel after serving in the army, met my mom in Israel. They both didn't speak a word of...
But your mom's American or
my mom's
was
American.
Israeli?
American. My mom's American, was just visiting in Israel.
Yeah.
And they got married after 2 days, or no, a week. They got engaged after 2 days.
Wow.
And they've been together for more than 50 years.
Your parents, well, there's a lot of parents that were still married growing up. Like I was one of the few whose parents were divorced. But I remember your parents had this like amazing love story. And your dad's best friend also married her friend.
Yes. They
So
like
like
a month later, they also got, And they're still married and they're still together.
And they have 2 boys and...
Yeah, they have 2 boys.
Yeah.
And they grew up here.
They grew up in the Valley.
I just remember hearing his parents' story and your parents' story. And it was like, we were on a trip. So how does that work when you don't speak each other's language?
So it's funny. My mom tells a story. It's like she proposed to him.
Yeah.
Because they didn't speak English. He didn't speak any English. She didn't speak any Hebrew.
Wow.
He invited her. He met her. She was sitting on a suitcase on Ben Yehuda in Tel Aviv. And he walked over and threw out some lines saying like, "You look like my sister." And next thing you know, he invited her for Shabbat dinner Friday night at his parents' house. And that was the next day. And they're back outside of the house. And my mom, and he's like, "I want you." He says, "I want you." So she's like, "What, you want to sleep with me?" And he's like, "No." And she's like, "What? You want to marry me?" He's like, "Yeah."
Wow.
And that's how it basically happened.
Wow.
That was how it was. She's like, "Oh, okay." She didn't. And then my dad's whole story is when they got married here, this is his joke. He's like, I was walking down, which is not a joke, but it's real, but he's walking down the aisle and he goes, "I didn't even know her last name." But
awesome.
Look, true love lasts. And it's nuts.
4 kids?
4 kids,
50
16
plus,
grand, 16 plus kids.
Wow. And how long have they been married?
Since 70.
Yeah.
So what is that?
I can't, that's
50,
30 years ago.
years,
In my
54 years.
Yeah, wow.
And are they still living in Beverly Hills?
Still in the same house, still in the same.
Really?
Yeah.
But it's so big.
Yeah,
There's
right.
no one
Well,
else
we
like
all
that.
come for Shabbats. We all stay. Most of us keep it. So we detach, we unplug the phones and stuff, and we'll stay. Everybody will be in their old rooms. Then all the grandkids get together, and they're all just like
awesome.
Swim, so it's a good thing to keep that.
I remember you always had like a really good family. Your family was the inviting family. You know, they always.
And you had a really interesting neighbor growing up too.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
You know who his neighbor was growing up?
I don't remember.
Who was your neighbor?
Don Sterling.
Yeah. Yeah. That's his next door neighbor.
Oh, there was a lot of crazy stuff that happened.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
The night that Scotty, Scotty took his mom's gun, the small little like 22ers, and shot his friend Philip, the kid whose mom's was a realtor lives on Rexford.
Wait, what?
What's
Somebody
crazy
shot
they
somebody?
He shot in the leg, and they're both now. Scotty, may rest in peace. He's gone. I don't know if that kid Philip is still around.
Did you know Scott Sterling, Jessica? So Scott, I mean, it's crazy because I had that thing with Ed O'Neill.
Yeah,
clipped. I don't know if you watched it or not.
I want to watch it.
It's good, and it's all about what happened 10 years ago. The whole Sterling, everything that happened. But what's crazy is right before that, literally like within 3 months before that all went down, is when Scott died of the OD, and they don't really touch on that in the movie.
Exactly. It did go down that time. And I remember I saw Scotty. The last time I saw Scotty was at the LA car show. Me and my dad were walking. He came up, and I didn't even recognize him.
Yeah.
He was like roided up, like huge, with some old lady.
Yep.
Like when I say old lady, way older than him.
Yep.
"Hey, Elan, what's going on?" And I'm like, "Scott?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, man, I've been working out." And like he was sober, or I don't know, but and that was the last time I saw him.
Yeah.
And the time last time I saw Don,
I
was walking down Beverly, and I see Don with a biker jacket on, and the girl, and they're walking down the street, and he's like, "Hey, Elan," and I'm like, "Don," and I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Don, what's going on?" I know he loved women, but I didn't know it was like out in the open. And he's my neighbor, and I know his wife, Shelly, and I know I'm like, "What's going on?" And I was like, and I knew something was wrong.
Yeah.
up here.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it already gone. So
Sure.
I think a lot of it, it's well, you got $2 billion. What do you fucking
Got $6 billion now.
6 now? But
Yeah.
what the team was?
He sold the team for $2 billion.
$2 billion. So
he bought the team for $10 million. All
Yeah,
borrowed
10
from
million.
Bank of America.
I know.
Yeah.
So
But that's a crazy story too.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
really quickly, because I want to
Yes.
get back to Elan's
Yeah.
story. Your dad moved here
Yes.
from Israel
Yeah.
and started a business.
Yeah. He got
And
into the schmata business.
Yeah,
The
schmata
clothing,
business, for those of us who are not
Yeah.
Yiddish speakers,
part of the tribe.
part of
Yeah.
the tribe, is the fashion industry. So
Textiles,
clothing,
yeah.
textiles, and your family did private label
Private
stuff for like
labels.
Walmart and Target,
Target,
like those
everybody,
types of
yeah.
really big.
Yeah. Well, he started in the
Manufacturing.
swap meets.
Which is
Right.
funny because, everybody thinks the Jews run Hollywood, which
They
there's a
don't.
lot
They
of Jews in
don't.
Hollywood, but most of the Jews who made their money live in Beverly Hills were in the schmata
Textiles.
business.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
You're right.
100%. 100%.
They're in the schmata. So yeah, basically he started in from nothing. He came in with $50.
Yeah, wow.
Didn't even speak English.
Yeah.
I remember my grandmother when she arrested me, she used to take her to this one Israeli guy who owned the gas station on La Brea and Beverly, just so she could hear him and see that he could speak Hebrew to somebody.
Yeah.
Because there was at the time in
Yeah.
1970, there was
Yeah.
barely any
Yeah.
Israelis here
Yeah.
yet.
The only guy who was here was our producer Dan Zeroni's dad. His dad is Israeli. Came
no
here
way.
with $400 and didn't speak English.
Really? So
Yeah.
they all had that same
Yeah.
story. He came with $50.
Yep.
Was a
By the way,
painter and a
this
plumber.
is a story that's been told over and over
I
for the
know.
last millennia. It's like you take everything
It's the
away,
American dream.
we'll
It
figure
is.
it out.
It is.
Yeah.
You come from,
Yeah.
and that's hopefully
Yeah.
we could save it.
Yeah.
For those, so there's more people who come here. Those people are the ones who really understand what's going on
Yep.
in the world,
Mhm.
and are like, we can't let this happen again.
Yeah.
We can't keep no.
Yeah.
But going back to the story, so he started small, swap meets, this, that. Next thing you know it, and he worked hard, 10 years, 24/7,
Yep.
Yeah.
and just built.
How did that become what it became? Because it was, if you say from the swap meets,
He was just
to-
hard work, and he
yeah.
always had vision. He always, and it was also into real estate and knew where to invest.
smart businessman.
And he kept his business to himself.
Hmm.
We never, you don't brag. You don't. I think that was the key.
I met your dad. He's a sweetheart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody loves my dad.
Yeah, he's sweet.
He's the
sweet.
best.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember, we all ran into you at the Hollywood Bowl. It was the reggae night at the Hollywood Bowl.
Yes.
And you were with your dad and your
My
mom,
mom.
and your oldest son. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a great time.
I remember that.
Yeah.
That was like 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Something like that.
And then, so high school, you grow up in Beverly Hills, you go to Beverly High.
Yeah.
After high school, you're doing some modeling and acting, right?
Well, no, during high school.
Yeah.
That's what we were talking before we started. I almost didn't walk because I had 56 unexcused absences during my senior year.
Yeah.
And so they came to me, the principal and everybody at the time were like, look, Elan, and my mom excused him because I was working.
Yeah.
Right.
But they're like, look, you got to be punished somehow.
Yeah.
It's either one, you get to walk,
All right.
or you don't get to go to prom. I was like, okay, I don't care about prom.
Yeah.
Because back then, nobody cared about
Yeah.
prom.
Yeah.
We all went
It was
to
all about the after party?
prom.
Yeah.
And I had already I was partying, going out in clubs, your clubs, Ballistics.
Yeah. Ballistics.
Yeah.
And
Prom was the actual prom.
what was the other
lame.
place on Sunset where the taco
Bar
is?
One.
No, Bar One too.
El
but-
Compadre.
well, no, the fish taco spot, the pink taco is. It was
Oh,
called Roxbury.
The Roxbury,
Oh.
yeah.
So Roxbury, I was going there since I was 14, 15.
But I remember
Yeah.
the spots we'd go to drink when we were in high school, like the sushi place on Sunset.
Oh, sushi on Sunset.
No, the
Yes.
other one. The other one.
The one,
Taka sushi.
Was it Taka
Taka
Yeah,
Sushi?
Taka
sushi.
Sushi.
Yep,
They
that
used to
was
like
right near
sell
my
us.
house.
They would
didn't care.
sell. They didn't give
No,
a shit.
and they put us up top, and you could
El
smoke.
Yes.
El Compadre.
Yep.
El Compadre was great too.
And then also there was. Do you know where Paquito Moss used to be?
Yes.
There was the
There was the
liquor
little-
store,
yeah,
that
and
was-
the guy would just sell to
Sell
you.
us 40.
Yeah, whatever you
Cisco's.
want.
Crazy
yeah.
Horse.
Cisco's.
I used to have Crazy Horse.
And there was another one on La Brea.
Oldie.
And Wilshire.
All those malt liquors.
They would
Oh,
just sell.
Lord.
Yeah. So you're doing some modeling, you're doing some acting.
Acting, modeling,
right?
that whole thing,
We were
yeah.
talking about that guy Omar, the model.
Yeah,
agent.
Omar was
yeah,
my agent.
Yeah. And then how did the singing thing happen?
Omar and I happened to be at the Opium Den.
Yeah.
Omar had all the top men
Yeah.
models and the girls' side too. They had huge, they had commercial, they had acting division, they had all
Yeah.
that stuff. So I started with him when I was like 15,
Yeah. Okay.
15, 16, something like that, or 14.
Yep.
And it did really, I was making a lot of money for a kid in high school who had no responsibility, no bills.
Yep.
And there's no like, cell phones or whatever.
Yeah.
We had pagers.
Yeah.
But I was like, you name it, just buying my friends' stereo systems. It was nuts.
Yeah.
So Omar and I were at the Opium Den.
Yep.
And it was one of those
Wednesday
Brent
night.
Bolthouse, Sarah's club.
At Pantera Sarah.
And at Pantera Sarah. And Al Anderson, the lead guitarist for the Wailers, was there that night.
Yeah.
And Omar goes, you see that guy over there? That's the lead guitarist from the Wailers. I was like, what?
Yeah.
The Wailers?
Yeah.
I was like, that's amazing. Because I grew up loving Bob. We used to rock it in your car all the time.
Yeah.
With the systems. We all had crazy systems in our car.
Your brother, Eitan, may have had the best because he had that giant, rolling living room.
Yeah, it was. And so Omar introduced me to Al. And at that time, it just so happened to be that I got inspired by this dude from head of A&R Virgin Record. His name was Kaz. And I went to a Sex Pistols concert with him and a couple girls I was dating.
Yeah.
And we all hung out and they told him I was a singer, but I wasn't really a singer.
Right.
So he thought I was a real singer. And he comes up, he's like, whoa, what kind of music do you do? I'm like, I never written a song. I was like, oh, it's kind of like roots, soul, reggae, rock. So he's like, oh, I'd love to hear it. Come, And at the time, so when I fast forward to when I met Al, I was already now got a lockout studio in the Valley with some money that I had saved up from acting. That's when, what's it called? When I needed a guitarist.
Yeah.
And I told Al, I'm like, Al, I'm doing this record. Come. And he's like, no problem. He happened to live across the street from the studio in the Valley.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just so happened, it was like, so he played on every song.
Right.
Heard me.
This is your music that you're doing.
All new song. I wrote 10. So my thought process at the time was, I didn't know the music business. So I said, this guy wants to meet. So I called Kaz. This guy wants to meet me. So he's a big dude, big shot. Let me call him. I'm not prepared. So he's like, oh, I'd love to meet you. I called him the next day after the Sex Pistols concert. I was like, dude, Kaz, I'm not prepared yet.
Yeah.
I want to come. I didn't tell him I had never written or never sang a song.
Right.
It's like, no problem. Just call my assistant, set up the time whenever you want. I'm like, okay. I got all excited and inspired. I was like, got the studio, got the musicians, got it. And I was like, okay, in my mind, I need to write 10 songs. I want to do a whole album, write everything. We're going to do this in a month. And I locked out the studio for 1 month and just wrote 10 songs.
Right.
And this was to give to Kaz.
To come and present it to him like okay, here's my record, put it out.
Yeah.
Kaz, who you'd met at the Sex Pistols concert.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. He was friends with the girls that I was dating that were
I love it that the girls I was dating, not the girl I was dating, the girls I was dating.
Because there was nothing. It was
It was great.
Yeah.
No, that's
Everybody
perfect.
was just hanging out in the 90s.
I love it.
And so they were the two assistants to Nancy Berry and Ken Berry, who ran and owned Virgin Records.
Okay.
And Kaz came and they were representing, or they had put us all on the list to go to see the Sex Pistols at the Palladium.
Yep.
And that night was when they told him I was a singer. They heard me singing in my fucking car.
Right.
I'd drive down the street and they'd hear me. I'd sing. Remember where I used to sing in your car? We'd sing along to everything.
Yeah.
So he thought I was a real singer. And anyway, so
you get the studio, you
finish
get the
the
musicians,
songs.
you call Al because you knew
Al
him.
was my guitarist on it.
Right.
And then
you make a demo.
I made a full album.
Full album.
And I went into him and I remember in the meeting with Kaz, he's hearing, and now he thought I was going to be at that time was like No Doubt, Sublime, 311, we're all big.
Yep.
Sugar Ray. Sugar Ray came a little bit later.
But it's all that genre.
Yeah. And so he thought I was going to be like them, like kind of like this rock reggae, Kylie reggae vibe thing. And then my shit was so straight, like roots, dance hall, like it was a mixture of Bob Marley, Shabba Ranks, and Maxi Priest.
Yeah.
It was like that. And he's looking at me and he was English, Japanese English cat. And he looked at me and he looked at Darren, my bass player, who was also a male model or actor from Omar's. That's how I met him. And he's black. And he's like, you singing? And Darren's like, no, that's him.
Yeah.
And he looks at me, he's like, good voice. And he didn't understand. He's like, well, I just wanted you to know. And I didn't say anything. I just wanted to hear him, what he was going to say. And he goes, I just want you to know, like, I thought you were going to be more like those other bands.
Yeah.
Cali reggae bands. you're so straightforward, like reggae. I don't even know, but they're like, okay, we want to do this. This is amazing. And at the same time, Junior Marvin, who was the lead singer of the Wailers, who took over for Bob. So he was the other guitarist. He took over for Bob when Bob passed away. Aston and Family Man, the bass player, and Carly Barrett, they chose him over Ziggy.
Yep.
Ziggy at the time, I think when Bob died, he was like 17 or 18, maybe 16. So they thought he was too young.
Yep.
Because Rita was pushing, he was like, hey, take Ziggy. So Junior convinced him, and Junior's not a singer.
Mm-hmm.
But he ran the band. He was in the band with Family Man and the rest of them till 96, 97, something like that. And that's when I came into the band. So he left to do his solo thing and went to Brazil.
Yep.
They needed a singer, and there was no tryouts. There was no any of that. Al played my demo to Family Man, and they said, get that kid.
Yeah.
And I had never performed. I never had a sound check. I never had rehearsals, nothing. And my first show was in Dubuque, Iowa, in front of like 6,000 people.
Wow.
All off the memory of the records as a kid.
Wow.
And I remember Al on the drive with the bus, we show up and he turns to me, he's like, Elan, are you sure you're ready? And I was 19 years old, 20 years old.
Yeah.
And I go, well, if I'm not ready now, I'll never be ready.
Yeah.
I'm born ready. I said, I was born ready. And he started laughing. And I got up, I had no stage presence. I closed my eyes. And I was standing in front of the mic, and I didn't move.
Yeah.
Just because I was so concerned about getting all the lyrics right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm here about to perform for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Everybody knows all of Marley's lyrics word for word. You mess up, you're like, you're gonna be on the chopping block. And it was the craziest night because that night was a humid, hot night in Dubuque, and there was no backdrop on the stage, and there was lightning and thunder throughout the set, but no rain.
Yeah, wow.
And it was like, and it was going part of the music all night until the last song. And during, this is a funny part, during the set, so they were throwing stuff at me. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh shit, the crowd doesn't like me. They don't like me.
They're like, where did this Jewish kid from Beverly Hills
Why are they throwing this stuff at me? And then I look down at the floor and there's joints and herb and it's just bags and there's a bunch of herb and I'm like, no way. And then I was dancing and I didn't want to step on anything. So the last song was One Love. Yeah. And the only mistake I made was I put the second verse first and the first verse. That was all I did. No one probably knew. Yeah. But I was so happy because that's all I was focused on, getting all the lyrics right. Yeah. Until the last song stopped. It was thunder and lightning throughout the set. Then all of a sudden, like a torrential downpour of rain just engulfed the place. And I was sitting, the band ran to the bus. I'm on the stage collecting all the herb, like putting it all together to go bring it back to the bus so I could distribute it to the rest of the band. Because that was my first show ever.
I love it.
And for the first 7 shows, there was no sound check, no rehearsals. It was all festivals. Yeah. So the next was Sierra Nevada Music Festival. Now there's 15,000 people. Yeah. All the biggest reggae bands that I grew up like idolizing, looking up to, Gregory Isaacs, Dennis Brown, Toots and the Maytals, the Abyssinians, Roots Radic, everybody were opening up for me. Yeah. And I was like, oh shit, I'm scared. I was still my second show ever. Yeah. And I met David Crosby that night too.
Wow. Oh my God.
And I didn't know who he was.
No way.
Well, I didn't recognize him because he just got out of like
rehab.
And he was a lot big, and I didn't recognize. So he was crying on the side of the stage when I walked off, and my friends who were with me, they're like, do you know? He's like, I'm David Crosby, da-da-da. He's like, that was amazing. Man, I thought, heard that. It didn't sound like that since Bob was around. Yeah. And I was like, man. And then my friends like, do you know who that was? When we left. I was like, who? They're like, David Crosby. I'm like, and they're like, Crosby Stills Nasty. I'm like, oh, shit. Yeah.
That's crazy.
But it was amazing.
Yeah.
So you basically just got thrown into this.
Into it.
And even like singing was kind of, you fell into it, which is interesting because I remember hanging out with you guys, and I can't remember if it was your after prom or our after prom, but I remember smoking a blunt with Ika Mouse in Eitan's car.
That was your after prom. I hooked it up, but Ika Mouse was supposed to be your after prom's performance.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
at Tattoo.
Mouse stayed in my guest house.
Yeah. So we all went over there, and I was with my boyfriend at the time. Etan and him were good friends. And we go over there and we all hotbox Etan Suburban.
Mm-hmm.
And Ika Mouse gives us, this is actually a terrible but yet funny story, gives us the end of this giant Jamaican blunt he rolled.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like this big cigar size. My boyfriend grabs it, keeps it as a memento. We go home. Somehow we start talking about this experience to my mom, who goes, well, let's light it up. My mother smoked the rest.
Awesome.
God rest her soul.
That's awesome.
But yes, that was my mother, which
That's
is why I
awesome.
didn't bring her out often.
Awesome.
But yeah, it was, I remember you guys actually, you and Etan, because I always loved that. My mom was a huge reggae fan. So she's British. So like Steel Pulse was one of my favorites. Black Uru, of course, Bob. But like Toots and the Maytals. Like I grew up listening to that with my mom. So I had almost forgotten about that music.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden I'm hanging out with you guys and it was Barrington Levy and Shabba Ranks. Like I'm like trying to think of all the people, Sister Nancy, like all of these compilations, Supercat. There was a great compilation that I always remembered called Big Blunts.
Mm-hmm.
Big Blunts was one, and then there's also Strictly the Best.
Yes, and then there was like the Under Me Sensi volumes, and I remember somebody went to New York and came back with all these street mixes. Do you remember when you would do that? You go to like you'd buy something.
That whole thing because nobody knew, and I was like, dude, this guy's gonna be huge. Supercat's gonna be huge, and because I got into reggae really young.
Yeah.
And all my friends, then I got all my friends.
How did you get into reggae? Because it is interesting.
I don't know.
And how did the culture accept you? That's two questions.
Yes. So how I got into reggae, Sarit, I remember the first song I heard was Rastaman Vibration, or Roots Rock Reggae by Bob Marley and the Wailers. It was a Natty Dread album, or Rastaman Vibration album. And my sister had it on cassette, and we were driving to Hawthorne one day. I think it was in 6th grade. And ever since then, I got the bug.
And Sarit was a singer.
Sarit was the one who was supposed to be the singer.
Yeah.
She was wanted to be a singer from day one.
When I heard that, and I hear that you're touring with the Wailers and singing, I mean, it was mind-blowing. Elan? But then I had an amazing experience with you. I don't know, this is maybe like 5-6 years ago. We went to Cali Vibes Festival at the Queen Mary. You and I together went. And I'm telling you, every person with a fucking dreadlock knew who this guy was.
That's crazy.
I mean, it was crazy. Everywhere we went, everybody knew who he was.
And then,
hold on, the Wailers were performing, and Family Man brought you up on stage. I mean, just cold, and it's weird because, I've worked a lot with artists and stuff, and nobody goes on stage cold. Nobody does. Mm-hmm. You went on stage cold and just fucking belted it out, and it was what an amazing experience that was.
What is the connection for you with reggae, and how? And obviously, people don't fuck around. Like they want authentic, right?
Yeah.
So when you are coming into a legendary catalog of songs that were sung by a legendary artist like Bob Marley, how do you make your own way with fans who are like not accepting? Like how did that work out for you?
So thank God, overall, everyone accepted. They felt the ingenuity, like the real, genuine vibe of it. So they were like, okay, that's how I got the nickname Artica. All the Jamaicans used to call him Artica. Like Cat Core from Third World actually was the one who coined it, calling me that. In Jamaica, article means the truth, the realist.
The real article.
The article Don and DJ. The article. Mm-hmm. That's the art. He's the living Roy. They would say, oh, the living Roy. Like, cause they felt it. We toured. I toured with all the, like I said, I was on tour with all these bands that I grew up loving. Steel Pulse, Third World, everybody. And I became friends with all of them. And I think Family Man really accepting me and bringing me in, may he rest in peace. I just went to his funeral.
Yeah, he just passed away.
Just a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And it was hard. Flew to Jamaica, and it was the most beautiful funeral that I had ever been a part of because it was a 2-hour concert of his whole life's work, like a music appreciation of all his work from Max Romeo. Everybody performed, Julian Marley, all the whoever was living left, Wailers. There's nobody left really. There's Al and Junior and really no one from the original bands left. They all passed away in the last
now the brothers
5-6
are doing
years.
it.
The Marleys are keeping it, and so is the Barretts. You know, Aston Jr., they did the movie, and he played his father. He played the bass player. He played his father in it.
That's amazing.
He killed it. He was exactly like his dad. He is his dad.
Yeah.
I met him when he was like this.
Yeah.
He was in the studio with us, like when we were rehearsals. Yeah. The kid is a genius. Yeah. A genius, plays every instrument, mastered every single, his uncle on drums, wire, organ on organ.
Were they kind of fascinated that you had as much knowledge about reggae as you did going in?
They didn't even ask me questions. They didn't say anything. They just heard my voice and heard me sing it. And they're like, all right, let's go. Yeah. Like, that's all they cared about. And then we worked on album. We worked on stuff to do, like to put out, for future. The band was like, I've said this before, it was like my college years. I didn't go to college.
Me neither. That's what I say.
And that was those were my professors. Yeah. I had all these guys who have been in the business, even not just the band, the Wailers, like Family Man and Seco and Wire and Mikey Boo and Keith Sterling and all the guys. I also had met like Carlos Santana, who brought me under his wing, who also gave me, Elan, don't do this, don't listen to those people who had been in the business for 40 plus years before. And I was just a young buck trying to, learn my way. I was very lucky to have, and Carlos Alomar also. Carlos Alomar helped me a lot. He was David Bowie's guitarist.
Did the Marleys have any relationship with the Wailers after Bob left?
Kind of. There was a little falling out, but it was they've always been. They were good. Like the Marleys and the Wailers were always like family man. There was some infighting in family fighting with royalties and whatnot.
And do you have a relationship with the Marleys?
Yeah. I know they're all good. Ziggy lives I think in the Valley.
Well, his son was just bar mitzvah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Is that crazy?
Yeah. That's great. No, one time we were going to soccer. I picked up Rohan. Rohan used to live a few blocks from me when he was living in LA. And we were going up to Robbie Williams' house where I would play soccer on his, called it Field of Dreams pitch. It was above Mulholland. And he took a tennis court and he made it, spent like a couple $1 million and made it the sickest 5v5 pitch. And everybody used to go up there. We used to play there 3-4 times a week. And so I told Rohan, let's go. I'm gonna bring you. And then we started I'd pick up Ziggy on the way because Ziggy lived on Coldwater. So I'd pick up Rohan. And then one time Ziggy's in the back and he's like, yo, you wouldn't believe I found out that we did some lineage about my family and my dad and I'm Jewish. I was like, what? And I was like, how? And he goes, no, you don't understand. My grandfather's father was an Orthodox Syrian Jew from Syria before they moved to England. And I was like, what, really? And me and Rohan were like hearing it. I'm like, wow, that's cool. And it also explains why he was wearing the Chai or the Magen David. He would wear a Star of David. Bob did.
But then, he
married Orly. And Orly's another alumni, Beverly. Went to Beverly. She was a year older than you.
I think so, yeah.
And Orly, a guy, she was like good friends with Pilar and all of them.
But we just had Pilar on.
No way. Okay, so Orly, and Orly ended up marrying Ziggy, and they've got like 4 or 5 kids.
Yeah, and they're just had a bar mitzvah.
Yeah, they just had a bar mitzvah. Abraham, they have Judah, Abraham.
Wow. Yeah. Those are crazy. That's crazy. You always kind of had celebrities around you growing up, regardless, based on where you lived. Because
where I lived,
you lived in the fancy part of Beverly Hills.
My mom schooled me on this. The train tracks that were along Santa Monica. So it was always you're south of the tracks or north of the tracks.
Across the tracks.
And that's why the flats that's what they called it. That was
across the tracks.
Yeah. So,
which is just hilarious. Did your mom grow up in Beverly Hills?
No, she went to Hamilton.
So she's an LA kid too, though.
She grew up in LA on Horner or around there.
Through working with the Wailers, then you had a lot of good other stuff happening.
Yeah,
you did a song in 50 First Dates.
Yes.
But wait, let's go back to the songwriter. I think the discovery of the talent is kind of crazy. Like all of a sudden you're 19, 20 years old going, oh my God, I can sing. And what about writing? Did that come naturally?
I just started doing writing. Look, I can write a song right now. We can all write songs.
Of course.
I don't believe in that whole, I have writer's block, this bullshit.
Yeah.
It's like, just get down and start writing. You can see, look at what people sing about today.
Well, that's a whole other story.
They sing about it. The light is shining bright. Like, they just and they'll speak gibberish too. But besides that, so if you make it complicated, it becomes complicated.
Yep.
If you look at it simply, and how I used to want to write was how Bob wrote, I believe, was that it was deep, but also easy so that a baby could understand. So anybody could understand, but it was also very deep. And then you could listen to the song and you'll get your own thing of whatever you're going through in your life, and it'll talk to you in a certain way more than whatever she'll listen to a song and go, oh, that same song will talk to her in a different meaning and have in different time in your life. So when people even ask me, what's your favorite, Wailers song, Marley song? I'm like, dude, it depends on what I'm going through, what I'm going through. Same, so I set out to write like that. And then I write whatever I feel, whatever I think, being accepted because of the band and them, there was only a couple instances on the tour where people would be like, there was a couple old ladies came up and like, what are you doing? And then I had the Jamaicans come and like just put a stop quick. Don't go near my singer, I'll cut your blood.
Well, and that's the thing. That's the thing.
They're just
if you're in, when I think of the Wailers, I'm thinking the Rolling Stones. I'm thinking the Beatles. They're in that.
I just went and saw them at SoFi.
Oh, was it amazing? I can't believe
First of all, I was at the show 10 years at 2013 at the Echoplex when they did that small, where everybody tried to get. I got in because a friend of mine was doing it. They were unbelievable. They were 70 at the time. I also saw them about 20 years ago at the Coliseum, and they were 60, and they were amazing. They're 80. I know. And they were fucking unbelievable.
They played. They played like 2 years ago at SoFi, and I saw it. 2 or 3 years ago at SoFi, and I saw it.
They're playing tomorrow,
and they played so many great songs. So this time they let you ask the fans what you want to hear.
Yeah, what you want to hear. Yeah,
and they got voted in what songs.
That's amazing.
Yeah, they're pretty amazing.
They played. What was that once I love? But I think he messed up a little bit in the beginning, but nobody really knows.
Did you go to Desert Trip?
I didn't go to Desert Trip.
They were great at Desert Trip.
I didn't get to go to that. Me, Ronit, Sarit, and my parents went to SoFi. Sorry.
Oh, no.
And me and Ronit were looking around going, I think we're the youngest ones here.
Yeah.
Everybody was in their 70s and 80s. It was crazy. And they filled that place.
No, it's awesome. I saw them a couple years ago. They were great.
Yeah. Well, it's like anything. There's a neurological reason people always go back to the music that they listen to in their formative years, right? So that's why you're filling it with all the same aged people. But I love that.
When you're in a band like the Wailers, it's like being in the band like the Rolling Stones or the Beatles. Fucking Keith Richards and fucking Ronnie Wood said this guy's good with us.
Exactly. Totally.
You're good or you're not good.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's how I got that, and then obviously the community was very embracing, full of love, and then I wanted to do my own stuff and continue to do that. And I got signed to Warner Brothers, and then I did the 51st Dates. Actually, Sex and the City was the first thing.
51st Dates.
That was a huge song, and then
what song was that?
Dreams Come True. I'm actually putting it out on a 25-year anniversary of that song.
Oh, nice.
On my EP that's coming out in a month or something.
Like a new version or a mastered?
The same remastered, but also a little remixed version of that. And then I have all the songs I've been putting out. They're all going to be there.
And then a song on 51st Dates?
51st Dates, with Gwen.
And then was that the song with Gwen? That
was a few of them. I did we had 3 songs. She was on that. It was an old Roxy Music song called Slave to Love.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I met him at Coachella.
Brian Ferry?
I think you were with me.
Brian
Ferry?
Me and you walked backstage at the main
God,
stage, and he was watching somebody else.
Yeah.
And I think you were with me.
I might have been.
It was me and you, and then that was the time when I pulled up in
the RV. We were with Wayne.
Huh?
With Wayne. You were with Wayne.
No, I was with my bass player.
Yeah, I just saw him in another show too, actually. Yeah.
And Brian Ferry was there, and I walked up like, hey, I'm Elan. And he's like, you're Elan? And he goes, because obviously he's been seeing all the royalties.
Right.
Because all of a sudden his song is...
it's his song,
Yeah, so he's like, you're Elan. He's like, I got a picture with him too.
Yeah, he probably gave you a big hug.
Oh yeah, he gave me a big hug. He's like, I'm the one who did Slave to Love, the reggae version. He's like, no way.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So you had a relationship going with No Doubts.
Yeah, I met them
as a band.
I was performing at the House of Blues, and Tony and Gwen and the whole band were there watching with my family up top, and I met them, and me and Tony had always said, oh, let's work, let's do some, and it never was work, but finally when it happened naturally, it was like we were in his home studio, something like this, and just started making music, and then Jimmy Iovine heard it was like, and Mark Williams, the A&R, they heard it and they're like, yo, that's fucking good. Let's do this. And that's how it all happened. And then I ended up I ended up signing with Interscope, putting out together.
Was this after Warner?
Warner, yeah, I was with Warner. I was with London Sire. So at the time, so rewinding a little bit, I was with London. I got signed to London Sire. I had almost every label. Tommy Mottola from Sony, Virgin. All these people these big labels wanted to sign me off that early demo album that I made for Kaz. I just ended up going on tour with the Wailers. I turned them all down.
Did that not come out, that album you made for Kaz?
Only one song I put on. Bijou Phillips begged me to put this one song on this movie she was in. So I gave it to them. It was called Eternal Fight. That was the only song that actually saw the light, but it never got released.
Yeah.
I still have all those songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a whole album with the Wailers that I never released. We never released. And it's all these it's kind of like the Supernatural Carlos Santana album, where we'd bring all these contemporary artists to make new. So the whole thing was reggae. I have all the original Wailers on it. Drums, bass, guitar, everybody. We made all new tracks, and we got like Kenny Chesney. We got like
oh, that's amazing.
What's his name? Eve was on at the time. Jason Mraz, all these different artists to write their own songs, new songs, not covers.
Is that the song that you played with Kenny Chesney on the CMT Awards?
No, that was another one we did with him. It was called "Everybody Wants to Go to Heaven."
That was great.
Then there was Spread the Love that we did. So he's like, let me use it for my album. We're like, cool, no worries.
That's awesome.
And me and him are still friends.
I remember I was at home, I got the call. Turn on the TV. Alarm's on right now. Turn it on. Turn it on.
That was crazy.
That was a big performance. Yeah.
Oh man, that was a crazy night that night too.
Yeah.
We were out till like 6 in.
I bet.
I was at Brooks and Dunn's in their back of they had an after party, and there was George Strait and Lady Antebellum on the piano, and we're all around the piano singing, drunk and singing.
Yeah.
George Strait, me, Reese Witherspoon, all these all at 6 a.m. singing old country songs.
Unbelievable.
That's unbelievable.
And I was taking pictures like a fanboy.
Yeah.
Because I was like, man, George Strait, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Now, were you into country music at all?
I grew up on everything.
Okay.
There's an old video of my parents have me. I'm dressed up like a cowboy. I must have been like 7 years old or 8, with a guitar in my hand, singing "The Gambler" by Kenny Rogers. You gotta know when to hold. With him in the back. So I was like kind of like singing along with the music.
Yeah.
My dad's just recording me.
That's awesome.
In like 78 or 79.
Would you ever do something where you just switch up the genres and do something that's it? Yeah. Okay.
I've been doing a lot of what Dan was saying about collaboration. So I've done stuff with Kenny Chesney, who's in country.
But I mean, you personally singing country?
Yeah,
of
course.
Okay.
Snoop, I did the song with Major Lazer and Snoop. That's completely, and then I was doing a lot of like 12th Planet and all these like dubstep and that whole.
Oh yeah, that's a whole other.
I mean, it's a whole, and they would just sample different things that I was saying or singing, and it's all those different artists.
I think we went to see Major Lazer at Coachella. You and
I.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
And I still work with Dave Taylor.
Yeah.
And Switch. He's it was the original guy who started Major Lazer with Diplo.
Yeah, with Diplo, yeah. I see Diplo all the time. He's a good dude. I see him at Stagecoach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see how he did it? He's been switching. He has Wesley. He has his whole country one. Then he has Major Lazer. He has his DJing Diplo. He's producing.
Yeah.
The guy, I remember he was nobody. He was doing little DJing in downtown undergrounds.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So because the way that you're describing just your life, it sounds like you're everywhere all at once, all the time. And you know everyone all at once, all the time. You're a good-looking kid. All the girls had a crush on you in high school. You have money from acting. Then you become like a rock star. So like, what were you acting like during all of this in your early 20s? Were you enjoying all of this and hanging with all sorts of
we run around pulling chicks. That's what you want to know.
I know he was.
I'll tell you one thing. Thank God, because of my family, and my family, the way I was raised, and the older I got, the more observant I got, and because of that, it kept me very grounded.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I have no ego.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do anything. I'm not like, oh, I'm too good to do that, or I'm better than them because I sang in front of 300,000 people. Like, it's stupid.
I mean, we were talking before we started recording. Anytime I've asked you for a favor, you're always, yes, I'll do it.
I'm all about, I take care of my friends. I have my close knit friends. You asked me, Sebastian, Brandon, Eddie, all the boys, Justin.
Same guys
Scotty,
you hung out with in high school.
In high school,
I love
we're
that.
all still best buddies. I have like 4 or 5 crews like that.
Yeah.
Because of my experiences, like what you were talking about with like Balt and Eric Dane and all that crew. And then there was Leo and Toby and all those cats. And then there was all these crews because of where we were.
LA,
we're acting, LA. We all go out to the same clubs. We all at Ballistics. We're all at different places. And that's how we are all one big family.
By the way, we got to give Eddie a plug then. Eddie.
Yeah, Eddie Witz.
He's that's got to be a little bit from your influence. He's got a reggae song with Wayne now.
Yeah, right? Wayne wrote. That's a story. Did you hear the story about it?
No,
Where it was supposed to be for. It was supposed to be for what's his name? Who just passed away.
So wait, Wayne. What's Wayne's last name?
Jobson.
Wayne Jobson.
And he's a reggae.
Wayne.
He's a big
Native Wayne. He's had a band called Native. Him and his brother, his aunt. Or no, his aunt or his cousin's Diane was Bob's attorney.
Okay.
She was in the movie and everything.
Okay.
I just saw her at Family Man's funeral, but
right.
And he wrote a song. They wrote a song for Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah, it's got that Jimmy Buffett vibe to it.
And something happened. It never went through.
It's Jamaica Time, right?
Jamaica Time. It was either Jamaica Time or the first one. Yeah, it was Jamaica Time. I don't remember which one Eddie told me was. And Wayne had talked about it because he was good friends with Jimmy over the years. And he finally, and then Eddie, I don't know how, but Eddie's gone through a lot, let's just say.
Yeah.
Instead of going into all the detail.
Yeah.
And especially with his Ramsey Hunt that he got with his face. Oh. Half his face got like paralyzed basically. Oh. And he's been speaking about it and talking about it. And it leads to a lot of things. Like it's been a couple of years now that he's been trying to get everything back. And he's trying, one of his outs like is his music. Yeah. And it's kind of like where you hear the stories of people with Alzheimer's. Yeah. That when you play the music from their times, or play their music, or it all of a sudden turns the light on, and they remember things, and they can tell you stories, and they're able to remember all the lyrics.
It's amazing.
So it's a healing. There's a healing part to it.
Music's very healing.
Yes.
And I have heard of that, of people playing the music from their time. The people with Alzheimer's who play
100%,
stuff they listened to when they were in the 1950s or 1960s. But what is amazing is you're one of your best friends from high school. Yeah. Who you end up becoming the lead singer of the Wailers, having this reggae career. I mean, for a Moroccan Jew from Beverly Hills, it's a little like out there. And then you influence your friend who now is having a little bit of a reggae career, which is awesome. Yeah. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And it's new, right? For him in the past 5 years.
He's brand new. I mean, look, he played piano. He had piano lessons when he was a kid. He loved music. He always loved. He was like all of us. He loved music, and he always wanted. He sang. He would jump on and sing at karaoke and stuff. And he was an actor. Yeah, me and him in high school.
He was in theater. He was in the theater department. Yeah.
He was in the musicals. All that I remember was Oliver. He played Sykes, and so he just got it, and it was a healing thing for him.
Yeah.
And he looks like he's really enjoying himself, which is
loving it because he's like sick of doing the tchotchkes. Yeah. That's another Yiddish word.
Yeah,
he did all the promotional products, merchandising and stuff like that. He was in that. He's been doing it for years. Yeah, and he had a lot of personal issues that I think stressed him out and but he's persevered, and he's got his family of 2 beautiful kids. His wife, Michelle, is also in the band with her singing because that's what she did.
That's his wife?
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's his wife. The blonde in it, that's Michelle. That's his wife. And she's Australian who had a whole career.
Now you guys got to do a collab together, the two of you.
I love that.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. And so great. Going back to what we were talking about with him, with the writing and doing all the collab, the Sex and the City, you had 51st Dates, the songs with Gwen, which I'm hitting the highlights. And then you did a bunch of songs with Tony as the producer, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Tony Canal.
Yeah.
What's going on now? What's next?
Now I've just been releasing singles the last 4 months. It's been like 3 singles have already come out. We have another one in a few. Earlier this month was one.
Is there a website?
Yeah, there's
where can people find
music. You can find me on Elan Atias on Instagram. Everything's on. All my information's there. Okay. TikTok, all that stuff. Yep. And I'm putting out an EP doing a couple of shows, charity. I've been outspoken about, what's going on in politics, really global politics, but also mainly to pinpoint it Israel and what's, trying to support and tell the truth so that more people hear it, because we're definitely, for 15 million of us in the world,
there's a bit of a PR problem.
There's a big, you have billions against 15 million.
Totally.
Yep. And not all 15 million are there outspoken.
No, I know.
And, you just can't fight that algorithm that when there's that many billions
100%
who are spewing lies. And so you have to go out there and try to tell. I lost a lot of fans, a lot of followers because I did stuff with Sheb Khaled, who's a big, like the Elvis of the Rai world. He's from Algeria. I've done 2 or 3 songs with him and I toured with him. And he's an amazing person. But a lot of his followers, a lot of his fans are Muslim. And they, how could you support genocide? How could you support?
Yeah.
I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And you have to start just, you know what? Got to start teaching and telling them this history, showing them, like, look, this is not what you're being taught is not what's the reality.
I have very strong opinions.
I have very strong opinions. I'm with you.
I'm very loud about it. And my dad even said to me, be careful. And I said, why? And I went, I'm an anomaly. I'm a Welsh Jew. There's like me and one other person I've ever met.
Well, now Catherine Zeta-Jones.
You're talking about 15 million in the whole world. We're not even 50. You need to ask when they go into interview, how many Jews do you think are in the world?
It's 0.2% of the
entire
whole world.
And then they're like, oh, there's like 1 billion.
Like when September 11th happened, we had already kind of in our heads seen from our friends' stories, like how many friends did you have that were Persian that lived in a house with 10 people?
Let me ask you this. After September 11th, when something like that happens and Al-Qaeda does some terrorism like this,
right,
and kills 6,000 people, did you see, could you imagine if the students of the schools were coming out saying, we love Osama bin Laden, yes, let's be pro-Al-Qaeda, free pro-Al-Qaeda, let's free Kuwait, let's free, where was the other place there, Afghanistan. That would have been squashed in 2 seconds.
Especially during Bush's administration, 100%.
Bush, it doesn't matter. I'm saying the mentality, because it's been allowed and now it's been taught and they've placed people in these institutions that are big, Harvard and all these places, Columbia, and the kids they don't know the history. And they're being taught a lie and they believe it and they actually think it's okay. And then when you go and hear them and they're being interviewed at these protests, they have no idea what they're talking about. They don't know what river, they don't know what sea, they don't know anything. And you want to help them. You want to like say, look, wake up. This is what's really going on. You wouldn't last a minute over there. And Ital wrote a lot of crazy songs. Like he wrote Smooth with Carlos Santana and
What's his face?
So he had the idea, we need to have Jewish pride. Rock the star, be proud of who you are, have no fear.
You know Kosha Dills too.
Of course.
So I met him in Sundance.
Oh, cool.
New favorite person. And he's really, he's really good.
The hardest worker
I've never seen anyone like this kid. He's great. And he's a good person.
Yeah.
And he is really out there and he's having conversations and he's a sweetheart and he's funny and he keeps it real and he's not an instigator. He's the realist and he's got great bars. He has a great response. He's got great bars.
So I met him years and years ago. He won the special, like it was at MetLife Stadium or East Rutherford in Jersey. They had a huge rap contest. Yeah. And it was with all the biggest radio stations at the time. The one white Jewish kid. Out of all the whole New York, New Jersey, they had a whole stadium full of rappers. Yeah. He won. That was like his first thing. He's been the hardest worker I've ever seen. Always out on the street with his mic, rapping in front of whoever.
Amazing.
And he can do it off the top of his head. Yeah. Hey, I'm here with Dan and Jessica and Elan, and we're here on this show. And he'll make up everything just by looking at stuff.
There's the other guy too. Do you know him? The other, I know we're talking about Kosha Dills because but I think the other guy's Jewish too. Mac. You know Harry Mack. You know Harry Mack?
I've heard of him.
He's pretty awesome.
He's pretty good too.
He just makes it up on the fly. Yeah. He's pretty awesome.
But Kosha's out there having conversations.
He's going,
and
so
that's what's really
it's helping him, and it's also helping him because he was on Wild and Out, representing. He has like this keepa on and rapping, and they go off after him and whatever. but he's always, that's his whole thing.
Yeah.
He's been sober for a while now.
Yep.
And he was in a down and bad place, and he made his life, and he's like, you know, this is who I am. I'm gonna go and promote to the world. I'm gonna go. Yeah. And he's been a voice before all this started happening with October 7th.
Yeah.
He's been a voice all this time, and it's good for him that he's finally getting, you know, recognized and the light because he's spreading light.
Yep. You know how we ended up going down this path too was I asked him what's next, and what you're saying is what's next is that you're a voice for Israel.
I am.
And a champion for Israel.
And Jews. And not just Jews. Because like I said, we're on the front line.
Yeah.
They're going to come after the Western civilization. They want Sharia law everywhere. They don't care. They're already in France and England. It's almost gone.
Yep.
For Germany, gone. Look, Poland's the only one that doesn't have them in there, and they're the only ones in that whole European Union that are okay.
Don't worry.
They've been making noise in France for 30 years. Older. They've been making noise in France for over 30 years.
But there's sections even of America right now.
Yeah.
Wait, look at our extreme, but not even
in Michigan that have Sharia law in cities.
They do?
Basically, because you can't go in there. There's certain cities that have Sharia law because it's all, and they now are in the government. They're in the Senate. They're in the House of Reps. With the whole, you know, the gang of four.
Just to clarify, because it's a mindset. Because I look at the Christian nationalist movement the same way I look at any other extremism.
Yeah,
I do.
There's extremists. Yes,
it's extremists.
But
it's extremist behavior.
But they're not going to go cover up. You can't vote. You can't drive. You can't. You're a woman.
Wait,
you're gay.
Hold on.
Off the roof now.
Hold on.
You're off the roof.
Not yet. Not yet. I know, but it's all. But that's the thing is it opens the door for every other extremist, like, ideology.
All I'm saying
to
is,
come in.
look, do unto others the way you want to be treated. That's the whole. They say that the Torah, that's the one thing. If you had to sum up the whole Bible, Torah is do unto others the way you want to be treated. You do good. You don't want to be treated good, so treat people good.
Mitzvahs, being a mitzvah.
You don't want to kill. You don't want anybody to come kill you. Don't go kill people.
Yep.
You don't let people be.
Yep.
Let them live their lives. That's what America is all about. Well, that's what America was started when they did it. They came here. They didn't want to be under. You want freedom.
That's where you're striking on something. It's not okay that you can believe what you want to believe and I want to. Either you believe what I believe or you're wrong.
Yeah. That's what happened today.
That's what it is.
That's what's going on today. And I hate to say it.
That's
a lot of it's on the left.
Yeah.
And the left are the ones championing, saying they can't handle it. Dan, I don't care what you think. You're wrong. I'm canceling you, and I'm going to tell everybody how bad you are, and I don't care. And there's no dialogue. Like now we're older.
Yes,
we come from a different time where people could speak different politics and different sides, and I still respect you.
There's decorum,
but it's okay. You support so and so. I support so and so. Great. You can still live your life. You're still good friends. I can still give you a hug. We still could go party and have a beer.
It doesn't make you my enemy.
It's no enemy. It's
different.
And that's what social media has done, though. Too.
Yes.
Social media has done that. And people feel brave behind the computer screen. And, you know, the country was founded on the idea that we can disagree, you know, and have different ideas and different ideologies. But now people are so, either you believe what I believe or you're wrong, or you don't have a right to exist,
or facts
you don't
don't
have
matter.
a right to believe.
Or what about
facts don't matter?
Or facts don't matter. But what about you have to believe, you have to see me, who I am, and I don't even know if you identify the whole identified thing. I have to walk on eggshells because I don't know how you identify.
Yep.
And what if Dan, you identify as a woman, and I called you a he, and all of a sudden I am canceled because I didn't know, or like
going down.
That's that whole mentality. That's just
it's a heightened sensitivity. No, it's true. I actually talked to my son about this, and there's a sensitivity level now that a lot of it, because of how we grew up in the 80s and 90s, we didn't recognize it for what it was at the time. We didn't have it.
It's not that we didn't recognize it. We laughed at it. It was they were in comedy.
Right.
You can't be a comic anymore.
No, you can't. You
can't say shit.
You can't.
You can't.
And that is a problem. Like the like humor and commentary and differing opinions, like no longer. You'll get canceled for saying one thing out of line.
We were like even what I just said right now.
Right.
Sorry.
Just had an episode. So Adam Turtletab, who's dad was Saul Turtletab, who wrote Sanford and Son, and we were talking about, the comedy that they did there at that time. You just couldn't do shows like that today. Let's wrap it up with Elan. I can't believe you came in. I appreciate you so much for being here.
Everyone can find you on your socials, Elan Atias
Elan
Music.
Atias, Elan Music, Elan Atias on Instagram.
And do you have any new releases coming out?
Yeah, and it's called Get You Back. It's coming out, I think, in the beginning of next month or the end of this month. I don't remember.
Thank you guys for joining us today with our dear friend Elan Atias. We're so excited that he got to come on the show. Check out all of his socials, TikTok, Instagram, new music coming out soon. And don't forget to subscribe to 90who10 on Instagram, YouTube, all of those things. And I've been getting some really nice private messages from some of our viewers, which just makes me really happy that we're actually reaching people. I got a really nice message from somebody who was a big Charlie Paulson fan. We know like half of the Grassroots fans are watching still. So thank you guys. And if you have any questions or you want to send us some suggestions of who you might like to see, or if you went to Beverly or grew up in LA and are curious about maybe coming on, hit us up, 90who10 @gmail.com. And thank you guys so much for joining us today.